Good morning.
Good morning.
Wow, well, this is the morning after, so to speak, because we had a beautiful, beautiful service last night, a candle lighting, and we actually had a baby. We had baby Naya with us last night, and it was so magical. And Elliot and Gretchen did a beautiful job. The choir sang, Reverend Roger told a story, and it really put us in that Christmas mood. And then today we just continue that feeling of being in a sacred and holy time. And so I'm so glad to be here, and today what I'd like to do to really stay with that feeling is to retell the Christmas story, which I love to do, then to really expound on why we have hope and what's ahead. Thank you, Reverend Sage, for the beautiful reading from Richard Rohr on Christ consciousness, on something that's so big. And Christmas is that idea. When I retell the story, it is retelling an idea that is an evolutionary story. It's an idea in consciousness. If we go back to the beginning of the story, there was the waiting for a Messiah. There was a waiting for liberation. The culture was waiting to be liberated, and people were praying for a Messiah. And then liberation came, and it came in the person of someone who had teachings that could liberate, teaching of love, of oneness, of wholeness. And in that storytelling, we understand that in the evolutionary process that we are that story. That consciousness lives in us. These and greater things will you do. That we are, the Father and I are one. That consciousness is the consciousness of the Christ. It's where we are, who we are, and what we're celebrating today. And we have been for 2,000 years. But now we're leaping in consciousness to expand our understanding of the story. So I like to go into that, what the story is, and the expansion of the story. The birth of Christ has changed the world. Although it happened 2,000 years ago, it's happening today. So when we tell the story, we're telling the story of us, of our beingness, of our evolution, of what we understand today. So I like to tell the story and how it has come through to me. I was raised in a very traditional setting with the story, and I love it because it always took me to an understanding of love and the angel's message of peace on earth, goodwill to all people. That was such an inspirational message. And when I started getting into New Thought, I understood that message is my message, that Christ is being born in me, in us. So in the story, when it starts, the Christmas story, the angel Gabriel appears to Mary, and she is in prayer. The pictures of this scene is Mary is in prayer, and an angel appears to her. And the first thing in any spiritual story, when an angel appears, the first things they say are, "Fear not," because you're shocked with the idea of an angel. When you understand the metaphysics of what an angel is your highest thought. When you have a thought that is so high that you are the place that love shows up, that you are the Christ, an angel is appearing to you. And fear not in that, because this is such a high and divine idea that we get to live up to. We just are open. So we're the angel in the story, our higher thoughts, whatever your highest thought is about yourself, about the world, about that unfolding, it's appearing to you. And you're Mary, the part of you that's receptive. You're in prayer. You've been asking, what can I do? Who must I be now? You're asking that. Your Mary is getting activated. Your receptivity to being so much more than you thought you were. The willingness to go forward. Mary says yes when the angel appears. Yes to that higher thought. That's what we're saying. Yes to the highest thought about ourselves, that we are the presence of love on earth. Then Joseph comes into the story. Joseph is a little skeptical in the beginning when he hears the news that his betrothed is with child. But it's a new concept that you can self-generate, so to speak. Joseph is open, but he's skeptical. And our Joseph gets activated every time we say yes to something. Maybe you've said yes to a dream you've had. Maybe you've said yes to a relationship. Maybe you've said yes to something, and then you get skeptical. Well, I can't really do it, or it might not happen, or we've never had peace. Why would we have it now? The Joseph gets activated. But the great thing about Joseph is that as he worked through the issue, it said that he went to prayer and an angel appeared to him. And the angel said, "Fear not." And so Joseph moved in consciousness to accept the situation, the impossibility, so to speak, of the situation. And he said, yes, okay, I'm willing to move forward. And as he said, I'm willing to move forward, the story then takes us in consciousness to the star. That light appears. All of a sudden, there's a special star in the sky. A light appears. When your angel introduces you to your highest thought that seems impossible, but you're receptive to it, maybe a little skeptical at first, but you move forward and you say, okay, I'm going to try it. I'm going to move in that direction of my higher self. I'm going to become more than I have ever been before. When I move in that direction, there is light. The light starts to awaken us. We see the light, so to speak. And so a star starts to arise, comes on the horizon, and we see something new. So understanding this is our own story, where is that star on your horizon? What's calling you? What is it in you that's coming forth in a way that hasn't happened before? So when that happens, you go on the journey. Now, the interesting thing on the journey was for Joseph and Mary, this is not an easy journey. They have to walk, they have a donkey, they have no place to stay. There's all of the things that happen in our lives, the harder things, while we're getting to where we're supposed to be. And when they travel, they're traveling long distance in an uncomfortable situation. Mary's pregnant, they don't know when the baby's coming, they know it's due. It's not the best of circumstances. And for us, I know for myself, when I'm in not the best of circumstances and traveling that bumpy road, I know that I have to look up. I have to look for the light in that situation. So while they're traveling in the uncomfortableness and all that is unfolding, they're still looking up. They're still looking at the light in the travel. And that gets them to Bethlehem. And when they get there through an arduous journey, all of a sudden, there's no room in the inn. How many of us would give up as soon as we got there? Okay, it's been a bumpy road, but I do want a soft bed, a little tea, something really nice. And it doesn't happen. It's when we start to take a breath in the midst of, we didn't think this was going to happen. We didn't think it was going to come this way, but it does. And our Mary, our receptivity, our Joseph saying yes again, our star is guiding us to something that we might not know the outcome of yet. But I tell the Christmas story every year so that we can go deeper in our own personal lives. All of us are on spiritual journeys, and we have to hold a consciousness as we travel in this way, on this earth, as we move forward. So the star is their guidance, but it's also the guidance of the whole of nature and the people. Globally, the star is the global sky. It's for everyone. So what happens is, even though we feel troubled, even though there's issues, and we've gone through so many of them in the last couple of years, everyone has gone through them. our work as a community, as spiritual beings, is while we're traveling and everyone is traveling under the same circumstances and conditions. We've seen COVID, Ukraine, Iran. We've seen things that would shock us, we're not ready for. We still are traveling. The light is still there. And our work is to hold the light, to be conscious that we have power, that if we hold the light, things will move in the right direction. So the shepherds in the story now appear, and they're working people. They're out in the fields. They're working all the time to take care of the sheep. And the shepherds in us are the part of us that will get busy and do the work. And in the story, the best part of the shepherds in the story is they look up. They take time out of their busyness. They take time out of their doingness to see a star and get inspired. If you are too busy, too frantic, too busy with everything going on, too engaged in the world, in your work, in your activities, the shepherd getting activated means there is a shepherd in us that can stop at any moment and look for the light. And this is our practice. This is what we do as spiritual beings. When we're overwhelmed, we go to prayer. We see a practitioner. We call someone. We read inspirational pieces because the shepherd that is activated needs to look up. Then the wise men come into this story, and they've traveled from the east where there are new beginnings, and they're seekers. The wise people seek. They just don't take things as they are. Most of us are seekers here. We're seeking for the deepest experience of the divine, not only as us, but more than us. And we're willing to incorporate that into our lives. That's why this story is 2,000 years old, because on every level, it is calling forth the Christ in us, that consciousness of infinite love and wisdom. So in the midst of that story, there's Herod, who is the reigning king, who is threatened by the newness of the Christ life. And how many times do we see it personally and culturally? Herod is sabotage. If you've ever sabotaged yourself, I'm going to do this, but you don't do it. That's the Herod that gets activated. And Herod gets very, very strong in my life. I can just, when I'm ready to really move and I'm on that high, something will come in, somebody will say something, something will fall apart, something isn't working. I know that Herod is activated, something that is looking like opposition to what I need to move forward. Think about it in your own life. Where is that opposition? Where do I have places that I'm willing to sabotage, to not call myself to my best, to do what I know that's mine to do? And this doesn't mean perfection. It just means willingness to hear the consciousness that holds us in small places. That's all we have to do, because once we hear it, we can say no to it. But if we don't listen and don't understand what Herod is, then Herod gets to rule. And in the story, Herod is looking for the Christ because that fullness is way too much for him. The ego can't take that there would be something else. And collectively, we're in that place where Herod is speaking loudly, and our work together, which is why I love this community, when I come in and look at the pictures on the wall, our work is to call ourselves to the Christ, to be born, to hear the angel's voice, to be receptive, to be hesitant but moving forward, to have a star guide us, to have light in our life, to be in the middle of our work and our busyness and hold this consciousness, to be wise in what we're seeking, and to stand up to, or just listen to that voice of oppression. So when I retell the story, those are the parts of the story that become universal. This is what Easter is really all about. I also, in preparing for the talk, had some thoughts on why we have hope. And I love the song that Elliot and Gretchen sang, "The weary world rejoices." We've been singing that song for a long time, and we've had a weary world. We've had so much going on. It's amazing that we've come through it. But what's going to happen if we don't stay conscious is we're going to try to go back to the way it was. It's never going back. We're not going back. We're going forward. So wanting something to be like it was is never going to work. What we're here to do is to create something new, to have a consciousness that something else is unfolding and allowing ourselves to move forward in that. So when the weary world rejoices, if you think you're going to go back to something and not do the work to go forward, it won't work. I just know that for myself. I have to understand that consciousness changing means looking at how things were, knowing that's how they were, and having that merry receptivity to what's unfolding. And the other, what's ahead? I love this part of the song, "When yonder breaks a new and glorious morn." I'm not a techno person, but I have been on the Webb telescope. That telescope is letting us see the birth of stars. That telescope is expanding our consciousness because that telescope is actually taking us back to the birth of the universe, and we are able to see it. This is a universal mind-expanding experience. There is no way we're going back. The original name of the Webb telescope was New Generation. That was its name originally, New Generation. There is a new generation. We are generating something new. And they changed the name to honor Mr. Webb, but it was New Generation. It inspired me so much because it brought to mind that we've moved. We've become the universal Christ, and we're actually seeing it. It's demonstrating itself. So fear not, as the angels say, fear not. Something wonderful is happening. Something amazing is happening. We have to be really steady, keep our focus, and keep moving forward. We do it personally by being the Christ in our own life and affecting the culture by our own deep work. So I just so appreciate the community and the way we move forward. And I love Christmas. I love to retell the story to my friends, to my family, and to take it out of the small container that it's been held in and tell the story of how it was really meant to be told. There is a new consciousness being born. It's a consciousness of peace on earth, goodwill to all people. We're going to see it. Our future generations are going to see it. We've come to the universal takeoff point, and that's what Christmas is all about. Thank you for sharing the story with me today. It's been my joy.